Hi, everyone, and welcome to our webinar on getting started with your Formstack Forms HIPAA plan. My name is Ryan Jorgensen, and I'm a Customer Success Enablement Manager here at Formstack. Today, I'm also joined by our Senior Customer Success Manager, Taylor Huerta. Hello, Taylor. Now, whether you're new to Formstack or you're an existing customer looking for a refresher on Formstack Forms, specifically our HIPAA plan, this is going to be a great webinar for that. Taking a look at our agenda today, Taylor is going to be taking us through some of the use cases that she sees with her customers, as well as a live demo where we're going to be going over navigating and best practices for creating a HIPAA-compliant form. Just some housekeeping items before we do get started. This webinar is going to be recorded, and a follow-up email that contains the recording will be sent out over the next 24 hours, but the recording will also be on our registration page if you do need to reference anything that we've gone over today. Also, we'd love to hear about what you came to learn, so we will have a poll that we're going to be posting shortly just to get an idea of what brought you to this webinar. That poll can be found on the right-hand side. It's going to be the right-hand side bar and will be open over just the next little while. If at any point during our webinar you do have a question concerning the content that we're going to be going over today, or just in general about your HIPAA plan, we do have a Q&A tab that we have located on the right-hand side as well. After our demo, we will try our best to answer any of the questions that you posted, but if for some reason we're unable to get to one of your questions, we are also going to go over some great resources for you at the very end, just to help with learning our products. And if you do have a specific question regarding your account, we would ask for you to connect with your account manager or customer success manager, depending on your plan. With that being said, I'm going to pass it over to Taylor to take us through some use cases and also that live demo of building out the HIPAA compliant form. All right, stop sharing my screen.
Thanks, Ryan. I'm going to share my screen. If you just give me 1 second. Awesome. So today we're going to be talking about our HIPAA compliant forms, as Ryan said. So hi, everybody. My name is Taylor Huerta. Again, as Ryan mentioned, I am a senior customer success manager here at Formstack, and I'm going to be walking you through what our HIPAA form solution can do for you. A quick agenda. We're going to walk through some common use cases we see for our HIPAA customers, a quick demo of our product. During the demo, I'll walk through some specific settings that you'll need to have for your form, especially if you're collecting any PHI or PII. And then as well as any settings on the back end that you need to have for your account. For our HIPAA compliant customers, while most of these customers are in healthcare, we also see a lot of these in financial institutions as well as high ed. But for today, I'm going to be focusing more on our healthcare side. Some common use cases that we see or that I have seen over the last 3 years are new patient intakes for patients such as switching practices, locations, or types of care. Specifically hospice referrals or any specialty referrals, incident reporting for any internal and external incident reports, family planning, and then finally insurance registration or change. These are just a few to name. Our HIPAA customers collecting any PHI or PII use our product in many different ways. But for today's focus, we are going to be focusing on a new patient intake. So I'm going to switch screens really quick. So when you log into your Formstack account, you're going to be taken to this admin panel. It will probably look like this when you first log in. Before I actually jump into the product itself, I do want to talk about a good use case for or use tip for managing your users, especially in the HIPAA space. You want to make sure that those who have access to the data are those who only need access to the data. So when you first are adding someone to the account, you could click add user up here. You could type in their email address, first name, and then there's going to be 2 different roles that you could give them. Everybody will need access to a platform role, either basic or admin. So admin users will need access to everything in your account. Think of invoicing, setting up single sign-on if your account has that, adding and managing users. If I'm just a basic user and all I need to do is log into my Formstack Forms account, I could be a basic platform admin or a basic platform user here. And now let's say the same thing goes for Formstack Forms. I could either be a standard user, an admin user, or if you have our workflow add-on, you could be a participant user. We're going to kind of disregard participant users for today. I'm going to jump into these two here in a second. So let's say I'm already added into my account. I'm going to click right here and edit. This would be the setup that you would just see as you were adding that user. So if we scroll down, you'll notice that an admin has access to everything in FormStack. Same thing up here with that platform admin. But let's say I was a standard user. You want to make sure that these are checked. If I'm a standard user, make sure that I have the ability to create forms if I need to as that user. Create themes. A lot of times people will make sure that this isn't unchecked so that you create one theme and that's the same theme for all your forms moving forward. Create and delete saved fields and can create smart lists. We'll touch on smart lists and saved fields later. This is just based on the user if you need them to have access to that. The one thing that I wanted to touch on here is under folders, and we'll show you how to set up folders in a second. But this is a good way to manage your users as you're setting them up. So maybe I need access to this webinar folder, and that's the only thing that I need access to. There could be 30 forms in there. There could be one. But this is just a way to say I'm a basic user in your Forms account, and I only have access to whatever is in this folder. Same thing on the form side. I could have access to a specific form in here, and maybe I only need to see the submissions. There's also view and edit submissions or form admin. So similar to the folder side, a folder or form admin will be able to edit and change everything within that form or folder. If I only have access to view and edit submissions, I can only see the submissions. I could export, I could edit them, I could change anything that's already submitted. And then view submissions, I can only view them. This is just a good way to manage your users. I like to mention this here just because it's easier to do it as you're setting them up rather than doing it on the back end. So once you have your users set up, we are going to go back to this, your app stack. You could click right here to access forms, or you could click this little drop down here or waffle icon to click into forms, and it will take you to this page here. This is the forms dashboard. So you'll see here, it's just a very high level of what you have access to, your forms, your themes, any quick links. These will be links to our support articles that you could click into, and then any updates from FormStack here. We're actually going to jump into this forms tab right at the top. And I mentioned the folders a few minutes ago. This is a great way to manage those users, but then also for your own FormStack organization within your Forms account. You could click add folder. You could create as many folders as you need to. And then within the folders, maybe you need to have subfolders based on, 2023 to 2024 and so forth. You can create subfolders within each of these. This is just a good way to manage and organize your account. Otherwise, every form that is created will live in this uncategorized folder. So can get a little clunky. You may have to search for forms. So it's best for an organizational standpoint to create folders and subfolders based on what would make the most sense to your organization. We're going to click into this new patient intake. This is the form that we're going to be working out of. I've already built a lot of it out, but we're going to kind of go through some of the fields that you'll need specific for HIPAA accounts, as well as show you how to set up logic and any settings on the back end. So you'll notice there's a dotted line right here. This is called a section. And then these individual fields are obviously called fields. How we get those over from this end, we're just going to simply drag and drop them over here and then pull it there. You'll notice that it says who is filling out this form. I have two of those. This would be the reason I have this in there so that I could show you where the question would go. So if you're pulling this over, you'll notice that it's called short answer. So this would be called radio button at first. So the field label right here is what you're going to title whatever question you're asking the end user. So again, who is filling out this form? And then with options. You'll notice that a lot of these moving forward have some logic that's highlighted in purple, or when I scroll down in a second, there's a whole section highlighted in purple. That will always let you know that there's logic set up on your form. So just a few things before we jump into there. I do want to talk about the difference between a radio button right here, a checkbox, or a drop down. These are all questions that I get asked a lot, especially in the healthcare space. You know, a checkbox maybe could be best fitted for what type of care are you looking for? Is it pediatrics? Is it specialty care, or like a OBGYN? These may be options where you get to select multiple of them. So that's best fitted in a checkbox. If you only want them to select one of the options that you gave them, you're either going to use a radio button or a drop down list. They can only select one, they can't unselect them. So think anytime that you want them just to have one, radio button or checkbox, a radio button or drop down, and then when there's multiple, you're going to use that checkbox. You'll notice here with drop downs, there is that option 1 is always going to be populated at the top. If you want it to be a blank, you can add an extra field here or hit please select from an option below, so that way they don't accidentally select that option there. I am going to explain, I think right here. There we go. So anytime you're using any of those 3 options, a radio button, checkbox, or drop down, we do have a feature that's called a smart list. So you'll see here, which physician will you be seeing? You know, physicians may change all the time. You may get new individuals like physician's assistants, or maybe types of care that could be changing all the time. We do have a feature called a smart list. What a smart list is it's a way to create those options for the end user to choose once and then apply it to however many forms that you need. So if you click this drop down up here by your name and then click on smart list, it will take you to this view. Let me open that. It'll take you to this view here. We're going to hit create new smart list. And you'll see, always make sure to name this. This is something that often is looked over. You can upload, if there's a lot of them, I think location is a good example for this. There could be a lot of different locations that you're choosing from. You could upload this using a CSV file, and all those options will paste here. So just for the sake of time, I'm just going to add a few of these in here. And now let's go back to our form, and we'll see which physician will you be seeing. There's going to be now this drop-down list here. We're going to say we want to choose this. Now it will automatically push to that form. This will just save you a little bit of time from building, but also if there's any changes of types of care, physicians, doctors, locations, instead of having to go to all of those individual forms and update them individually, you could just link it to that smart list, and then it will automatically populate and make any changes that that smart list is linked to. So this is a good option just to save you a little bit of time there. And then similar on that saving time aspect, there is a way to save a section in a field, which were something that we saw when we were setting up those users. If they have access to create and delete saved fields, that would just be clicking this, and you'll notice here it says save field. So we could hit maybe doctors, we'll hit save. And now if we were to go back in here, you'll notice that doctors, we just pull that over. It's easy to pull from where it's at to any form. So this is just another way to save you a little bit of time. This is really utilized pretty well with longer fields. Instead of having to type all those answers out multiple times, you could link it to a smart list and then have to just pull it over on any other form. So I'm going to quickly talk about some logic as well. So you'll notice, like I said, there is the logic posted here. You'll notice if we go, let's just click into this one, we'll add some new. So we're going to say we want this to show. So we're going to hit this drop down right here by logic. We want this to show when who is filling out the form. So right here is patient. If they select anything else, that's not going to be chosen. And we're going to delete this duplicate field just so that we could show you. So at any point, if you want to see what the form looks like, you could click this view live form right here, and it will take you to what the form actually looks like. So you'll notice if we click patient, it's going to say which physician will you be seeing. If we click spouse, that goes away. So you could do this on a field, or you could also do it on a whole section. So let's click this whole patient demographics section, and we're going to say we want this to show, again, when filling out the form is patient. So now you'll notice that that whole section highlighted purple, indicating that there is some logic set up on it. So we're going to click into this view live form one more time. We're going to hit patient, and you'll now notice that physician showed up and that patient demographic. But if we click parent, both of those have gone away. So this is just a good way to hide and show fields that you need to based on, maybe types of care or even location, or if they have insurance. Those are just a few good places that you could add things to there. So I'm going to scroll down a little bit, and I apologize for the scrolling. I do want to mention the file upload fields here. So what a file upload field is best used for is obviously any files. If you notice down here on the left, there are going to be types of files that are accepted. These are the only ones that can be accepted. For these file uploads, you'll notice if we scroll over here, it is down here in this advanced field section, or advanced fields right there. These are great for any insurance cards or passports, driver's license, IDs, anything like that. I'm going to keep scrolling a little bit. Just a few other fields to talk about. One of them is a description area. So think of if you're collecting consent information, a consent form has a block of text that you want to put information that they don't really need to fill anything out. They just need to read it. Instead of putting it in that field label, so like photo of insurance right here, we could put it in a description area, which is also in the advanced settings right here. If we were to pull that over and then you click right here where it says edit description area, it kind of turns into a Word-esque view. It's really just a good place that you could put a block of text to have it not look so stringy in that field label and that they could read and continue on. So if we click this view live form and scroll down, you'll see here, this is a description area. If we had to put that in that field label, it would be a little bit clunky and it's hard to format that way too. So I also put a few other examples and just copied and pasted this here. You'll notice this is also a description area. So just a good place to put a block of text without them having to be in that field label, and it could all just live there. I am going to scroll back up to the top here. For our HIPAA accounts, one of the biggest takeaways for today is this short answer field. And I'm going to move it up here out of the logic. What a short answer field is best used for is anytime you're collecting things, social security number, insurance information, or insurance number, passport number, driver's license number. This is a field that you absolutely need to make sure that you put any of that information in. So you would just drag and drop that short answer here. Once you click into it, there is this edit field security features. We're going to click on this. And this part right here, remove data from emails and exports, is one of the most important things to take away from this meeting. If you don't have this on, our support team will have an automated email that comes out that your form will be flagged. This is just something to make sure that data isn't getting anywhere that it shouldn't be. I use this example a lot. If it's an intern, maybe they're only in your organization for, 6 months. You want to make sure that they aren't accidentally forwarding any forms that maybe have social security number or driver's license or any of that information anywhere else. So this right here, just make sure that this is on. And then these ones are just preference. You could do hide input characters or require confirmation. Those aren't needed for FormStack security features, but that middle one is. So just keep that in mind. It's more of a use case preference there. So we're going to hit save settings here. And then specifically with social security number, you'll notice here I put it, please leave out the dashes in the supporting text. So it will kind of drop that information right there. And then I did a placeholder of without the dashes. Now right here, you'll notice that there's a field label or a field size that has a minimum and maximum characters. I defaulted that to 9. So if they try to enter in those extra 2 characters, it won't allow them to. So this is just a good way to make sure that they are entering it correctly if you want that format or not. And then the other field to mention that I get a lot of questions on for HIPAA accounts is birth date. So you can do right here. So this is just date and time, which is under this advanced. If we pulled that over and then under the settings, this is usually defaulted to 0. So you may want this to go, 100 years in the past so that I could actually choose my birthday within that range. You could also have it default here to date and time now. So it wouldn't default to, 1990 and so forth, or whichever date you have it started or disabled at. So this would be a good place so that it's easier to choose, which one your birthday is closer to. And then before we jump into some of the settings, these are all specific, to any form building, just dragging and dropping them over. And then within each field, you'll always have additional features or settings that you could fill out. So this one's phone number, if you need the format to be national, country, you could choose that. So you'll see that within each field specifically. Before we go into the settings, I am going to click on this form extras right here. There's a few spots to notice. Within HIPAA accounts, I'd say invisible reCAPTCHA, security logo, or prompt for location are really great ones to put on your form at any time, just to make sure that these are, the correct submissions that you're looking for. The users are actually, collecting that data by the users that you need to. And then save and resume. What save and resume is if you have a longer form, it would allow the end user to click into the form, start filling it out. Let's say I'm working at the library and I need to go home. I could click save and resume, type in my email address, and pick it up at another time. The only thing to note with this is we don't have any indication of who has clicked save and resume. So this would more or less, just kind of be hoping that the user picks it up at another time. They do have 30 days to fill it out. If it's day 31, that link will expire. If they click on day 29, start to fill it out, and then re-click save and resume, that 30 days starts over. One question at a time just breaks the form out into individual questions. So if we click that view live form, you'll see that they'll be able to click here and move on. And then that's that save and resume feature there. So I'm going to turn that off. And then for longer forms that start on multiple pages, you can do this progress indicator here just so that the end user knows where they're at within the form specifically. One other thing to note, you'll notice that if I try to hit submit on this, it wouldn't allow me because that field all these fields are required with that little asterisk. So that is making sure that the field is required, which is clicking this little asterisk right here, or you'll notice there's that checkbox that highlights at the same time. If you have any questions on any additional features or anything that you're seeing in FormStack, if you don't put it in the Q&A section, there is a drop-down little eye icon here, and you could search our Help Center for any of the fields that you're looking for, even conditional logic, anything that you may need would be found there. I am going to jump now into the settings right here. So I'm actually going to go to emails and actions for the sake of time. So in emails and actions, what this is allowing end users or internal users to be notified that the form has been filled out. So notification would be internal, and then confirmation would be the end user, so external. So I'm going to hit add notification here. I'm going to scroll down a little bit so that you could see this. For our HIPAA accounts, you cannot access the data via email or all the data in email unless you are a user in FormStack and unless you have SMTP set up. That is just connecting to your private email server and allowing that secure data to pass through, a secure connection there. And if you do want to set that up back in your FormStack account under that drop down again, so same spot where Smart List is, you'll notice there is an SMTP setting here. Click on this, our support site. If you ever get stuck, our support team can help. It can help guide, but they don't set it up since it's going through your secure server. So jumping back into the settings here. So back to notifications, you'll notice that it's going to be a link to submitted data, meaning I could be notified that, hey, there's a new submission for new patient intake. I'll be able to click that link and then log into my FormStack account. Once I click that, it will be taking me straight to the submissions table and I'll be able to access that data. You can also do a custom message. Maybe this would say, there is a new submission for new patient intake. Please log in. And same thing there, you'll just have to log into your account to then view the data. So I'm going to hit save here. And then I'm going to hit go back. So now you'll notice that that notification pops up. There is also a way to set up logic on this. So think of those radio buttons, checkboxes, and drop downs that we mentioned. Maybe if I chose that my physician is Ryan or my physician is Taylor, this email needs to send. You could also add a different one that sends if they choose me over Ryan. So kind of you could set up logic to have those notified for those who need to. And then same thing on the confirmation email here. If we click that, you'll notice it kind of looks the same thing. This would just be kind of more of a receipt for the end user filling it out, letting them know that you have gotten their submission and they are allowed to fill that out. So this could be, thank you for your submission. We'll reach out within 24 hours. The good thing with setting up SMTP is you can make these a little bit more tailored if your organization allows you to set that up and you have those tools internally to set up SMTP. You'll notice that these grayed out boxes are actually the fields that we're collecting on the form. So you'll be able to pull those over and maybe tailor it to say, thank you at name, whatever name that they put in there, and then continue to fill out the form. So if you set up SMTP, you can make these a little bit more custom. It also allows you to send that data via email. So I wouldn't have to log in to view. The only thing to keep in mind is that I would have to be a user to get that data. So that's the only caveat there. I'm going to save this just so that you could see it pops up here. And then you can also do the logic as well if you need it there. I'm just going to go down a few of these. The welcome and submission message, this adds a page to the whole entire form before entering it. These aren't automatically turned on because a lot of times people don't need that use case of, adding this. I'll show you what that looks like. So if we were to click that view live form, it takes them to this page and then they're taken to the form. I see this more in any internal use cases. So maybe think of new employee onboarding. That may be a good use case. You could put any information in there. It's more of like a description area before actually jumping into the form. And then that default message, once I hit submit, this is what will pop up. If they have, or if you want to redirect them to a custom URL, maybe like your events page or another form, you can add a submission message. And that would be by clicking this redirect to a custom URL, have it sent wherever it needs to. If you ever change the submission message, I always recommend adding in that confirmation email we just went over, because then the end user will get a copy or at least a notification letting them know that, hey, we got your submission, because if you redirect them, they won't see that pop up anymore. So this is the second takeaway from this FormStack training. For our HIPAA accounts, if you are ever collecting any PHI or PII, you're going to want to make sure that you add this specifically, the encrypt save data password. What this does is it adds a password to the whole entire submission table. Please make sure that if this is set, you keep that password in a secure place. If it's forgotten, we need to wipe the entire submission table and then you can reset it. There's no workaround around that, just because we want to make sure that that data that's being collected, if it's sensitive, we want to make sure it's protected and not being, reset and viewed by anybody who shouldn't see it. So if you're collecting any sensitive data, this absolutely needs to be on. Otherwise, again, similar to that short answer field, you will get an automated email from our support team that says, please add these security features or your form will be disabled. This PGP key, I don't have too many people who have this, but if your organization does have a PGP key, it stands for pretty good privacy. It's just an extra layer of security that you can add. It's not necessary, but we do offer you to add that on there. And then the form password here, if you added that, it's pretty similar to a welcome message. It just, you would have to type in the password before you even get to it. But this is also actually where the single sign-on access to the form lives. So if I'm an end user filling out this form for any internal uses, that I'm on your single sign-on, so not building the form, but filling out the form, you could set up single sign-on so that only end users on your SSO provider domain are accessing this. But for the most part, this will usually live on disabled. But again, number 2 takeaway from this is absolutely making sure that you have that encrypt save data password on to make sure that that submission table is being protected from those who don't need to see it. Jumping down here to integrations, these are all of our HIPAA compliant integrations. You could add all of these onto your FormStack account or FormStack forms, or you could add none of them. These are all done on a per form basis. So If you need, Formstack documents on this one, or maybe a Box account for those file uploads, you could have both of those on here. And then maybe on your next form, you don't have any integrations. So these are all HIPAA compliant, but also if there's one on here that you don't see, we do have an open API that you can connect to if your subscription plan allows API access. And then also if you have Microsoft Power Automate, we do have a direct connection within that. So just look in our help articles up here for Power Automate, and you'll actually be able to see how you connect the products there. But again, these are all done on the per form level. Once you click into all of these different settings, if you have any additional questions, again, another spot to check would be that help center. I'm going to jump into the share tab here and show you how you actually get your form out to where you need it to go. So this link right here is how you're going to click if you click into it and send that link out to any end users that may need it, or the embed code. And we also have an additional iframe and Lightbox here if you need it. But under URL links, I think is actually something that since COVID is something that a lot of people have adopted is the QR code. So you do have access to the QR code. You can click into that at any time and, maybe download it and then save it. I've seen people put it in their email signatures or outside a doctor's office for, new patient intakes or anything to fill out before they get into the office. And then finally is this submission table here. So this is where everything is going to live for your Formstack account, all the submissions for that form. You can create filters for these. So let's say we want to see how many people chose Ryan as which physician you'll be seeing. So I'm going to create a filter saying that we want to see how many chose Ryan. We're going to save and search. Obviously, if there were submissions in here, all the people that chose Ryan, you would see all those here. Otherwise, everything is going to live on this all submissions, but you can see there's read, unread, and then the custom filters that we've created. They're also right here. Once you see those submissions, there's going to be a way to see table settings that you could, maybe you don't need my phone number in there, but you need to see who's filling out this form and which physician. So you can change the view. Currently, this would only be for the person logging in. If Ryan logged into his account, his submission table would look different than mine. So just keep that in mind for as you're, showing anybody else on your team that may be needing to see the submission table. And then finally, right here is just the scheduled exports. These are great. I do like to mention, again, this is similar to that data spot of sending emails or sending the data through email. If you do a scheduled export, those users or those end users getting it do need to be a user. So just another way to make sure that those the data is being viewed by who needs to view it. And then I guess the only other spot that I'd mention is just the dropdown. This is where you'll see that smart list, any API access if your account has access to it, the SMTP settings, and any other additional features that you could set up for your Formstack account. And then I know Ryan will mention this, but if you ever are, starting to build these forms out and it's, taking you a little bit longer, you don't have the bandwidth, we do have an additional team here, our professional services team. They can help build out forms for you. So we use this as one of our demos for our sales teams. So you'll notice here, this is all the information that they had built. We're going to say my birthday was last week. You'll see we click next. I could choose what clinic. I could choose translation. So this was all built for one of our end users by our professional services team. And then I could click send. So if it's ever a point that you need additional help, we do have teams here that can assist with that. And then finally, again, to mention, this little I will probably be one of your best friends as you're logging into Formstack, getting to know our help center, submitting a ticket if you need any help from our support team. And then also if your subscription allows it, this is also where you could schedule a support call with our support team. And then also the feedback channel. If you ever see something in Formstack that you're like, I really wish Formstack could do this, this would make, our organization change, please submit it to our feedback channel. This is actually where our product team looks at what features our customers are actually wanting. So click in here at any time. You could go and upvote what other customers have said and look through it, but this is a great tool as well. And then Ryan, I'm going to pass it back to you for any questions.
Okay, well, I'm not seeing any others coming through right now. So that, I mean, if you do have a question, this is kind of a great segue. So looking over our resources, we do have our Help Center that Taylor did mention earlier, but we also have our certification program that is currently free. It's a great tool for learning more about not just FormStack forms and making the best use of your HIPAA plan, but if you are also interested in exploring our other product offerings like FormStack Documents or FormStack Sign, that product that we had mentioned earlier. It's also worth mentioning that if you like the demo that Taylor showed off today, and let's say you had a deadline and were pressed on time and could use a partner in building something out, we do have a pro services team that would be happy to help with your projects and can be contacted to get a quote and also a timeline. If you'd like to check out any of the resources that we had mentioned, including a getting started guide for HIPAA customers that we put together, we do have links to all of these pages located on the right-hand side, but this one's going to be under the docs section. And just as a reminder, so this webinar is going to be recorded and sent out within 24 hours. So if you were late to the webinar, or if you just want to reference it again, any of the information that we covered today, that is going to be sent out to you, and you can look that over. Additionally, you can always check back on the registration page, and that's also where the recording will live and can be shared out. But thank you all for attending, and hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.